He's getting ready to go in the house, and they were sitting right there at the entrance of the door. And when they saw him, the guy, he had the blunt up to his mouth, and as soon as he saw that child, he immediately, it was like the demon, you could see the demon jump off of him, and it was so beautiful, because you saw the presence of Yah in that child, and he saw the presence of Yah in that child, whether he knew it or not, because he instantly hid that blunt. And he was like, when I walked up to him, he's like, I'm sorry, man, I'm sorry. And you could just see the earnestness. You saw the sincerity in his eyes. He knew what he was doing was wrong. And that's the exact same thing right here. Now that Adam and Hawa had that knowledge of good and evil, now they knew what they were doing. They knew that they were wrong. That's why they hid themselves from Yah right here, as we're reading right now. Verse 9, and Yah called unto Adam and said to him, where are you? And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself. Again, how do you know that you're naked? How do you know that? Unless you've eaten of the tree of knowledge. How does a child know how to do bad? Unless that child's taught. That blows that whole lie that the Christians say, that we're born sinners and all of that. That blows that out of the water right there. You're not born no sinner. You know what I'm saying? You're taught it from a child. You're taught it. Everybody who is a sinner. So that's just saying, like when the people say, oh, I was born gay, I was born like that. That's bull, and it's a lie. And you tell them to their face, you're not born that way. At some point in time in your life, a spirit jumped into you because of something that may have happened to you, and now that spirit is on you. Nobody's ever born a certain way. If that's the case, I could be born a murderer then, right? I could be born a rapist then, right? You see that? You see how their doctrine just comes unraveled once you apply scripture to it? That's a lie. You see these? You're not born any kind of way. You're born and you learn it. Just like a child will touch a hot stove or something like that, but they learned that it's hot, so they won't touch it anymore. Most of us anyway. Some people still touch it every now and then. Like, ah. But anyway, not to get too sidetracked. And so this is what Adam is showing right here. Adam is showing that he has that knowledge. He has acquired that knowledge. And we're going to read another. We're going to read out of the pseudepigrapha here in a couple seconds. Verse 11. And he said, Who made you know that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you that you should not eat? And the man said, The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me the tree. She gave me of the tree, and I ate. So you see, Adam right now, he passing the buck. He's lying to Yah. He's like, I didn't do it. This woman made me do it. You ever done that when you were a child? Why'd you go outside? I didn't do it. My brother made me do it. You see that? It's the same thing. We're babes in the eyesight of Yah. And it's just funny how when you read these scriptures, you can apply it to your everyday life like that. That's why when we're dealing with children, when we're dealing with our children, we should have the same amount of compassion on our children that we expect the Father Yah to have on us. How many of us do that? Self-assessment. Self-assessment. I'm sorry. Now, okay. This is verse 13. And Yah said to the woman, What is this you have done? And the woman said, The serpent deceived me, and I ate. Verse 14. And Yah said to the serpent, Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all the livestock, and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you are to go, and eat dust all the days of your life. So with that being said, was the serpent always crawling around like that? Was the serpent always a snake-looking thing, or could it have been something else? Could have been something new. I'm going to show you guys a picture of some reptoid-looking things here in a couple seconds. But before I do that, let me read something to you guys. This is from out of the Apocalypse of Abraham. This is Abraham giving a description, or giving his account of that same situation that I just read from out of the book of Genesis. Check this out. This is the Apocalypse, the Old Testament Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1, the Apocalypse of Abraham. This particular section that I'm reading, this is chapter 23, and I'm going to read from verses 4 to, we'll say, verse 10. Yeah. And that's on page 700. So again, that's the Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1, Old Testament Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1, the Apocalypse of Abraham, chapter 23, verses 4 through 10, and that starts on page 700. And afterwards, I'm going to show you guys a picture of this reptoid-looking thing, and we'll see. We'll do some thinking, some what do they call it? Critical thinking here. And I looked at the picture, and my eyes ran to the side of the Garden of Eden, and I saw there a man, very great in height and terrible in breadth. incomparable in aspect, intertwined with a woman who was also equal to the man in aspect and size. And they were standing under a tree of Eden, and the fruit of the tree was like the appearance of a bunch of grapes of the vine. And behind the tree was standing something like a dragon in form, but having hands and feet like a man's, and on his back was 6 wings, on the right side 6, and on the left side 6. And he was holding the grapes of the tree and feeding them. To the 2 I saw intertwined with each other. And I said, who are these 2 intertwined with each other? Or who is this between them? And what is the fruit in which they are eating? Mighty One, eternal. This is verse 10. And he said, this is the world of men. This is Adam, and this is their thought on earth. This is Eve. And the one who is between them is the impiety or impity of their behavior unto perdition, Azazel himself. Interesting. So in this account, the apocalypse of Abraham is given this vision of these 2 who are great in stature and aspect, and they were intertwined. And them being intertwined meaning they're on the same wavelength. They're both doing evil. You see, they're both similar in thought, so they're intertwined together. They're on one accord, so to speak. And this serpent or this dragon is feeding them, what he describes as grapes on a vine. And this dragon looks like a humanoid based on the description that we just read. And so when we read in Genesis chapter 3 verses 14, Yah said, you are going to be cursed more than any other animal. You are to crawl on your belly. Interesting. Just like to throw that out there for you guys to see, so you can see where we're going with this, because later on in part 2 of this and in other lessons to come, we're going to go over, in fact, what the quote-unquote mainstream calls aliens. We know they're not aliens, but we know that they are angels, sinful angels, fallen angels. Let me go back to Genesis chapter 3 verses 21 and 22, because I want to explain something to you guys. Now check this out right here. This is Genesis chapter 3 verses 21 and 22, and it said, and Yah made coats of skin for man and his wife and dressed them. And so Yah said, see, man has become like one of us to know good and evil, and lest he put his hand out and take also of the tree of life and live forever. So that was the reason for our banishment. Yah saw that ambition in our eyes. Yah saw that puffed upness, that haughtiness, so to speak, in our eyes. So Yah knew that we were, hey, what's stopping them from doing this now? You know what I'm saying? So they must go. They must be removed. Now let's read. Now let's go to the apocalypse of Adam right here. I just want to put that in there real quick, and Adam is going to verify this in his apocalypse, or his revelation to his son Seth at the time. And here we go right here. Again, this is the apocalypse of Adam. This is volume 1 of the Old Testament Pseudepigrapha, and we're on page 712. And I'm going to read the entire first chapter, which comprises of 12 verses. So let's go here. And it says, the revelation, apocalypse, of Adam taught to his son, Seth, in the 700th year, saying, listen to my words, my son, Seth. When Yah created me out of the earth along with Hawa, or Eve, your mother, I used to go about with her in a glory. In a glory. We're going to describe that word glory. We're going to do a little bit of research on that word glory here in a second. Let me finish reading this real quick. I used to go about with her in a glory which she had seen in the age from which we had come. She taught me a word. Now here it is right here. This is talking about them eating of the forbidden fruit. She taught me a word of knowledge of the eternal mighty one, Yah. And we walked around like great eternal angels, for we were loftier or haughtier than the mighty one Yah who created us, and the powers that were with him, whom we did not know. So you see that right there again verifies what we just read in Genesis chapter 3 verses 21 and 22, when Yah said, see, man has become like one of us. This is what Adam is saying right here. They were like one of the angels now, knowing good and evil. And so Yah was like, what is going to stop them from taking of the tree of eternal life? So we got to kick them out. And this is Adam explaining it to his son Seth why they got kicked out. Now this is the fall right here. Then Yah, the ruler of the ages and the powers, separated us wrathfully. This is them being expelled from the garden. And then we became 2 ages, and the glory in our hearts departed us. There's that word glory again. Write that down and highlight that, because we're gonna explain that in a couple seconds. Then the glory in our hearts deserted us, me and your mother, of Hawa, or Eve, along with the first knowledge that used to breathe within us. Now that's deep in itself right there, because think about that. You notice how these modern day scientists say we only use 10% of our brain? We only use like 3 to 7% of our brain? This is what Adam is talking about right here. We already had when before we ate of the tree of good and evil, we had Yah's knowledge, or Yah's Ruach, with us already. We didn't need to know anything. We didn't die. We weren't bothered by pestilence. We weren't bothered by birthing pains if it was up to Yah to decide for us to give birth. We weren't bothered by all of these things. Sickness. If you continue to read on, or actually if you go to the life of Adam and Eve, that's in volume 2 of the Pseudepigrapha. When Adam gets older, he cries out because he's experiencing pain. This is the very first time pain has ever been experienced. And he's like, oh, what is this that is troubling me? So you see, brothers and sisters, we didn't know nothing. We didn't know about pain or anything like that. We didn't know about sickness and death. See, that's the catch-22 when you follow Satan. Yeah, Satan will promise you the world, but then again, Satan will take it from you. You see what I'm saying? Satan promised us eternal knowledge and all of that, but what was that eternal knowledge? The knowledge of death, the knowledge of dead things, things that men consume themselves now with, the acquisition of money, the acquisition of power, lust, envy, strife. You see where we're going with this? This is that forbidden knowledge that was coming. You see? Man, it's crazy when you actually sit down and you read it and you see, and Adam is going to go into depth. He's going to describe 2 ages. This is what he's talking about in the ages. The ages that they were living in first, that was the age of immortality, the immortality of man. But once we ate of that forbidden fruit, then we came into a different age, a new age. That's what he's talking about, these 2 ages that we're reading about right here now in the apocalypse of Adam. It's 2 different ages. Now we're mortal men, and now we concern ourselves with dead things, futile things, as King Shlomo says in Ecclesiastes. As a matter of fact, he opens that book up by saying futility, futility, futility. All is futile. Think about it, man. What do people concern themselves with? Oh, this outfit look good, or oh, this look good, or oh man, I got this Rollie, I got this watch and all this, or I got rims and all that. It's futile. Look at what the pharaohs did. The pharaohs buried themselves with all of their earthly treasures, and now where the treasures at? In some British museum, along with Pharaoh. You know what I'm saying? So Pharaoh wasn't even in his resting place. It's interesting to know, because it's the same exact thing. It's that forbidden knowledge. You know what I'm saying? And we worship gods. We worship Jesus. We worship Buddha. We worship Allah. We worship cars. You know what I'm saying? We worship buildings. Some people, their house is their whole life. They spend their whole life working on a house, and then they die and the house is torn down or sold. You see what I'm saying? It's futile. But this is the origin of the gods. And this is the origin of that forbidden knowledge. You see that? Man, this is... Alright, let's keep going. I'm sorry, I get kind of excited. But this is the 2 ages that Adam is talking about right here. I'll start again. This is verse 4. Then Yah, the ruler of the ages, and the powers separated us wrathfully. Then we became 2 ages. There it is right there. And the glory... Remember that word glory, we're going to cover that in a couple seconds. In our hearts deserted us, me and your mother Eve, along with the first knowledge, the original knowledge, the knowledge of immortality. I mean, that the knowledge of that just Yah is going to support us for everything. We didn't need this other knowledge. But not to get too far ahead of myself. That used to breathe within us. And the glory, is that word again, the glory fled from us, entering into other great ages and another great race. One that did not come from the age that we came from. I and Eve, your mother. You see, now he's breaking it down right there. Adam is saying, this new age is not, this is something that we didn't come from. That's why in Genesis chapter 1 verses 26, Yah says, let us create man in our own image. And then when they speak of the birth of Seth, they said Seth was born in the image of his father. Now he's mortal. You see, at first when Yah created us, Yah created us, in that age, the age of immortality. But after the fall, after we ate of the forbidden fruit, then that was the birth or the start of the second age, the age of mortality. You see, Satan ain't tell you that, but Satan just said you'll be like a god. Now, getting back here, the age, okay. But the knowledge entered into the seed of the great ages. That is why I myself have called you by the name of the man